The American author Alice Sebold has apologized for her part in the conviction of a man exonerated last week of raping her in 1981. In a statement, she said she was struggling with the role she played within what she called a system that sent an innocent man to jail. The events formed the basis of her memoir, in which she described being raped and later telling police she'd seen a black man in the street whom she believed was her attacker. Anthony Broadwater was arrested and convicted on flawed evidence. He spent 16 years.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
So in today's episode, imagine being sent to prison for 16 years for a crime you didn't do, all because a white woman deemed it fit to term all black men as appearing as twins because she couldn't tell the difference between a person who attacked her and an innocent black man.
Right, how do you even start correcting someone being sent away for 16 years who is innocent? How do you even appease that person just because you pointed out the wrong person and you did not want to admit your mistake, right?
Yeah, in your eyes, so long as a black person paid for what they did, for what another black person did to you, you saw that as justice. What are we talking about? Let's listen to the story of a famous author in America, and we'll come back and talk about it. But please remember to subscribe if you've not subscribed, and leave us a comment on what you think about this episode.
This woman, she's a freshman in college. Let's call her Ryder. So one day, she's walking home from her friend's place through the park, and that's when a man jumps out and attacks her, and he does something to her that I can't say, but it starts with an R. And then the guy runs away, and police can't find him. Now, a few months later, Ryder is walking down the street, and she just so happens to run into him. This guy. His name is Broadwater. So she calls police arrest him, he goes to trial, they use hair analysis to tie him to the crime scene, and he's eventually sentenced to prison. Years later, Ryder writes a memoir about her experience in the park that day, and it gets published. The book is called Lucky, and it sells over 1 million copies, and it launches her career as a professional author. A few years after that, Ryder finishes writing a second book, and this book is called The Lovely Bones, and it blows up too, selling over 10 million copies. Then Peter Jackson gets involved and makes it into a movie starring Mark Wahlberg, and that movie is very successful. In fact, the movie is so successful, it catches the attention of this guy, Timothy. Now, Timothy owns a production company, and he wants to turn Ryder's first book into a movie, Lucky. So Timothy gets the rights, and he funds the movie, and he starts developing it, and Victoria Pedretti from You is supposed to star in it, and it's gonna be a huge hit. I mean, everything is going great. Until Timothy starts researching the book so they can properly turn it into a movie. And he notices a lot of things in this story aren't adding up. So what's not adding up? Well, let's back this up a bit. Broadwater's arrested, he goes to trial, they use hair analysis to tie him to the crime scene, and eventually he's sentenced to prison. Broadwater's in prison for 16 years, and he gets out right around the same time Lucky is first published. And this whole time, he has claimed he's innocent. He even appeals to get his conviction overturned, but his appeals get rejected. Even after he's out of prison, he appeals, still rejected. He pays to take a polygraph, he passes, but that doesn't help the appeals, and he's still an ex-convict. And of course, now he has to register as a schmex offender, so he has trouble getting a job, and he doesn't have a lot of friends. Now eventually he meets a nice woman and they get married. And she wants kids, and he does too. But he refuses to have them because of the stigma they would have to face having a dad with that on his record. So he doesn't have kids. Now back to Timothy. So Timothy is researching the book, and things in the story aren't adding up. Like when police ask Ryder to pick her attacker out of a lineup, she picks this guy, who's allegedly a plant, when Broadwater is actually this guy, and there's a lot of little stuff like that. So Timothy says, nah, I can't fund this movie anymore. And he refuses to continue funding the project, and they fire him. But he's become so invested in this case, he actually hires a private investigator to look into it. The private investigator then investigates and turns everything they find over to Broadwater's attorneys. These new attorneys, they re-examine the case, and they find a lot of stuff. Like that hair analysis has since widely been discredited as junk science, stuff like that. And they end up filing a motion to overturn Broadwater's conviction. And eventually, a judge agrees to hear the case, and after 40 years of fighting, the conviction is finally overturned. So then, Ryder, of course, posts a written apology to Broadwater saying that she will forever be sorry. The publisher stops publishing the book, the movie's no longer in production, and Broadwater sues the state of New York for taking 16 years of his life away. Ultimately, the state settled with him for $5.5 million. And good for him. While Timothy and his production company are now making a documentary about Broadwater and his story called Unlucky. It's currently in development. And just to be clear, they concluded that Ryder had been assaulted that day, just not by Broadwater. And all this happened in Syracuse, New York, so shout out to New York.
He spent 16 years in prison after being wrongly convicted of rape. His accuser, a best-selling author, is now apologizing, saying she's truly sorry. But how do you undo such a life-altering mistake? Here's Les Trent.
Tears of joy as a man wrongly accused of rape is exonerated after spending 16 years in prison. Anthony Broadwater, now 61 years old, broke down in tears when he heard the judge throw out the conviction.
Mr. Broadwater cannot get those 16 years back.
His accuser was Alice Sebold, author of The Lovely Bones, which was made into a major movie starring Mark Wahlberg.
It's gonna be okay. My dad knows I'm here.
Her rape at age 18 took place when she was a college student in upstate New York, years before she became famous. Sebold says it happened here in this 76-acre park overlooking Syracuse University where she was a freshman. Months went by and there was no arrest. Then, one day, Alice Sebold was walking down this street and she says she came face to face with the man who attacked her. It was Anthony Broadwater. He was found guilty after Sebold took the stand and identified him as her rapist.
The people that knew me and know my character, they know that wasn't me.
Doubts about his guilt were raised when movie producer Timothy Mucciante started investigating the story as he prepared to make a movie based on Sebold's memoir about the rape called Lucky.
Anyone who reads the transcript of the trial and compares it to her book, there's quite a lot that's omitted that a reader would look at and say, you know, this doesn't add up, just like I did.
Sebold, now 58 years old, had nothing to say as she walked her dog in San Francisco where she lives.
Anything to say to Anthony Broadwater?
But on Tuesday, she issued a public apology to Broadwater in which she acknowledged he had been wrongly accused. I am sorry most of all for the fact that the life you could have led was unjustly robbed from you, and I know that no apology can change what happened to you and never will.
What do you think of that apology?
If it's sincerely from my heart, I can accept it.
So guys, welcome back. I feel like, let me just say this to get it out of my chest, okay? I feel like I'm so angered with this case to the point where I feel like my blood is boiling. Not because we do acknowledge that what happened to her is it's a true event that happened to her, and I really feel
horrible.
That was horrible.
Yeah. But if you think of those 16 plus 40 years that
she took from an innocent person, while her real attacker was still living out there, probably catching up with her life and what she's doing, you know, just crazy. And you know, there's nothing wrong in coming out and saying I did make a mistake, because if the producer who was supposed to do that movie, right, if he was looking at her novel and he found those inconsistencies, meaning the writer herself was not 100% sure of who she had accused, meaning she always lived with that doubt.
I'm sure she lived with the doubt of knowing that she might have possibly sent an innocent person to prison, and she didn't take time to even, you know, do her own investigation.
Right. And what gets me above all, guys, is that this woman, I'm telling you, she's not sorry.
She's not sorry.
She kept on living her life for 16 years plus, went on to write a book and became rich out of this, while some innocent man sat in jail and his life just stopped there. Didn't have kids. He never had the opportunity to get married, never had the opportunity. Like, the world went by and he was still sitting in prison. You can imagine what he was thinking while he was still in prison.
Right. And even after he came out of prison and finally managed to get married, he never wanted kids because he never wanted his kids to live under scrutiny, you know. And this woman just ruined his life completely.
Another thing to let you know that, okay, I don't mean to sound like a stereotype, but I feel like it happens a lot with the white women, is that this woman, even it was showing through her actions, all right? When the journalist went outside her house to ask about her statement to the innocent man, and she had nothing to say. Of course, she had nothing to say. A genuinely remorseful person, I feel like, wouldn't even wait for journalists to go knocking on her door. She would have personally looked for that man and apologized for that, because much as she was wronged, she also wronged someone else. You understand?
Yeah, because when whatever happened to her, that day, her life was not the only life that was ruined. She further went on because she wanted somebody to be punished for what had happened to her, and she chose Broadwater, knowing full well she could not fully ascertain that Broadwater was her attacker.
Yeah,
she decided he'd go down. If she was unable to find the real culprit, she wanted a black man, any black man, to pay for what had happened to her.
Yeah, and then the way she's written the statement on her apology, the way it's like she's speaking in a third-party form. It's like she's
detaching herself from that situation, meaning she's still not sorry. So long as a black man paid for what had happened to her, because I understand things like SA, it's not easy to get over things like that, and I'm sure even her, sometimes maybe memories come up, and that's why maybe she's, I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. Maybe that's why she's putting herself in the point of view of a third person when she's offering her apology, because like she's not really offering her apology.
Yeah, there's a statement she said that the system, she's sorry that she was part of the system that put the guy in jail. And to myself, when I heard that, I was like, this time the system, much as it contributed, it didn't put him in jail. She was
the sole person who was responsible for putting him in jail. And the system, since it was racist, because it was 1980 something, the system just came to make sure whatever feelings she was feeling, they wanted to make sure they'd get Broadwater on anything, so they fabricated evidence like the hair that they pinned Broadwater on, so and you guys, it's important to note that during the lineup, when she was going to identify the criminal, she didn't even point at Broadwater. She pointed at the neighbor of Broadwater,
and because she can't tell black men apart, to her all black men are the twins.
So guys, let us know what you think about this episode, and if you're new to this channel, please kindly consider subscribing, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Yeah, but before we go, I want to leave you guys with one question. God forbid it, right? But if it were you, if this was this case like would have happened to you, what would
both
you have
females
done?
and males, how would you have handled this?
Yeah,
for females, if you put yourself in the shoes of the writer, the female writer, right? And for males, if you put yourself in the shoes of Broadwater, what would you have done?
But in general, if you were sent to jail, wrongfully sent to jail, and then like, what would you have done when your accuser comes forward and says, I made a mistake, I'm sorry? I feel like, the proceeds this woman got from selling the first book that made her like a recognizable author. I feel like that woman should also pay the man, not just the state of
not just
New
the
York.
State. Yeah, but that woman should also pay the man, because she also ruined this
She was
man.
a big part.
Yeah, she was the one who identified the perpetrator. So she was the gun. She was the gun that was used to shoot Broadwater. So she should equally pay.
Yeah, to be fair, that is what I feel, But anyway, guys, I don't know what you think about this episode. Let us know what you think, and we'll be very happy to engage with you in the comment section. Consider subscribing if you have not, and let's catch you on our next episode.
Right.